Hey guys, welcome to your life path. This is episode 3. This week we'll be talking about relationships. I titled it Breakups and Breakthroughs, Finding Yourself After Love Ends. So I'm just going to share a little bit about my story. I recently was in a breakup and it was tough. There's a lot of emotions that I dealt with, that I experienced, that I still feel. But at the same time, a lot of good came out of it, in a sense that during our relationship, there was a lot of things that I could have done better, and after you reflect is when you realize, man, like I could have done this better. I could have been more communicative. I could have done, XYZ. And it's not till you get a chance to reflect and be alone that you realize the things that you could have done or should have done, right? But sometimes, you ever ask yourself, maybe it's meant to happen that way, right? And it's tough because for me, the person that I was with, she left me, right? And so it really broke my heart because I really loved this person and I had imagined living a whole life with her, right? Like I pictured us getting married, having children, getting old together and everything. So when someone like that separates themselves from you, your whole world and what you thought was going to happen just dissipates. It's gone. It's, it's broken and shit. And so for me, it was really, really painful. And when she first told me, I didn't get upset. I kind of, just speaking through my own personal journey, my whole life, I've learned that we all have a path and that we all have to find ourselves. And sometimes the best thing to do when you love someone is to let them go and let them find themselves so that they can love themselves, And so I understood that and I let her, I let her go, and as hard as that is, and it was really, really tough. After that first couple of weeks, there was just like a tornado of emotions going through my heart. I felt betrayed. I felt lost. I felt broken, right? Because you get used to being with someone, and we lived together, so we did life together every single day. And so then, once you're removed from that situation with that partner, then you have to adapt to a whole different lifestyle, being alone a lot, and so that can be scary sometimes, and it can also be really good, right? And so I experienced both. And for me, after we broke up, it was real shocking because I didn't see it coming, But like I said, when I reflected on it, I could have noticed the things that I could have changed to probably help the situation. And so afterwards, I had a lot of time to myself, a lot, all 24 hours. And I had to sit with myself, and a part of me wanted to, seek someone else's attention or to be with just the feminine, like another female, and not sit with these emotions that I was having inside, right? So I had to really control that and stop, because I found myself just wanting to be loved, right? And so when I noticed that and was aware about it is when I said, okay, Chris, like I think you're supposed to be alone right now, and it was scary. It's super, super scary because you're with yourself and your emotions, and they call it shadow work, right? So there's a lot of internal trauma that I have stemmed from being a child, to an adult, and all the programming and the limiting beliefs and just things that I told myself or were told that I believed that weren't real, right? And so when I was able to sit with myself and really face all those uh, fears, emotions, limiting beliefs, I really got to learn myself. And I was able to really love me, right? And it's crazy because if it wasn't for that breakup, none of this would have happened. So it's like a bittersweet moment because, you know, I really did love her and I saw a future with her. But if it wasn't for her making that decision, I wouldn't be where I am now, right? But yeah, so after the breakup, I spent a lot of time alone and I was there facing my emotions. And I learned that there was a lot of things that I believed, whether it was from experiences that I had in the past or by someone telling me something, like an ex, that stuck with me. And I carried that till this day, right? Or till the relationship. And so I started really tuning into my thoughts. Why was it, for example, just to give you guys one, why is it that I am seeking someone else for attention and for love, right? And even after the breakup, I would seek, and it's like, what are you doing? You know, I realized I was not giving myself the opportunity and the time to actually process what happened and to confront it, right? And to deal with it, to heal. That's what they called it. And so it wasn't until I saw a quote on Instagram and it says, God will break you down to isolate you so you can know he's here for you. And then he will rebuild you and give you everything times 10. And when I read that, it hit me so hard, like someone pierced me in my heart, right? And I was like, all right, God, I guess it's me and you time, right? And I mean, it should always be you and God time, but I really felt like for me, because I have like that stubbornness from my dad, I'm real hard-headed and, you know, I want things my way. So it had to take that for me to be like, okay, we're alone. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? You know, what are these emotions that I'm feeling? And let's get to the root of it. And, you know, let's face it. And so that's what I did. And, you know, I seek my spiritual coach. We did a lot of shadow work. And then, you know, after my breakup, I got counseling. You know, I got a therapist. And I started just talking to her and, you know, talking about my emotions. You know, it's good to have a therapist because you get a third person who's not biased and just tells you how it is, you know. They're educated on that, so it's been very, very helpful. And then, you know, I was also blessed that I got a life coach at the same time. So I got 3 different support groups aside from my family, right, and my closest friends. You know, I lean on them too for love and support. But I collaborated with all these people to help me because I really wanted to get to the root of this, right? And it's like, okay, how can I be a better person for my next relationship, right? And then at the same time, like, you know, who knows if me and her get back, or, you know, if that's what God's plan is. Like, I learned also that what is meant for you will be, right? All in its timing. So I said, okay, let's work on us, Chris. And I say us because, you know, there's my good and my bad, my ego and my soul on my shoulders, and we're always talking. You know, I started putting in the time and really spending time alone to heal. And I'd ask myself questions when a certain thought would pop up into my head. So I went into my emotions and questioning why do I feel this way? What's making me feel this way? And I started reading up on it. And when it comes to negative emotions, it all stems from 3 categories. And I have them written down. It's sadness, and then it can be subcategory to depression, hopelessness, shame, anger, which is number 2, which can be also subdivided to frustration, jealousy, impatience, and then fear, and then stress, anxiety, paranoia, right? And for me, I felt it was more sadness, but I'll give you a brief detail of each one, right? So with the sadness, when that emotion would come in and the thoughts of my ex would pop up, I'd have to ask myself, okay, Chris, what do I believe I'm lacking here right now? Because I'm clearly sad, because the reason you're sad is because you're lacking something, or so you feel like. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm lacking love. And then it went in deeper. If I'm lacking love and I'm looking for love in someone else, then I'm already set up to fail, right? Because it's like they say, you're supposed to love yourself first. Love yourself, love God, learn to be in love with you so that you can reciprocate that out to the world. And I didn't realize that. It took that moment, the breakup, to help me find myself and find enjoyment in myself and what I do on a daily basis, right? So my first love is me and God. And then it's my family and friends. And then, with the next relationship I get in, they'll be part of my group. But I learned to love me, and it's funny because my therapist was like, well, why don't you buy yourself flowers? And I was like, maybe I will. But it's just finding enjoyment within yourself and not seeking it from other people or seeking that validation, because you're not going to find it. And it's only you're going to be reoccurring in what's called this loop, right? So it's going to keep going over and over. You're going to repeat the same cycle, different person, same thing, same outcome, right? Until you face it within. And so that's what I learned. And then the second one, anger. When anybody feels anger, it's because they were attached to an outcome and it didn't go their way, right? So there you have to ask yourself, what attachment did I have? Why do I feel this way? Was it something that I was told, as a kid or in the past, that makes me want certain outcomes to happen, right? And anger, like I said, it can be frustration, jealousy, and impatience, because you want something so bad, and you want it now, right? That's the world we live in now these days, and that's just not how it works. It's all in God's timing. The universe just does it when it's on their time. Honestly, to the universe and God, there is no time, right? It's just something for us. And then the fear. Whenever you come up with that emotion of fear, stress, anxiety, or paranoia, you want to ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now? What is causing this anxiety inside? And where does that stem from? Right? So I started doing this digging for myself, and I started learning a lot, actually. And one thing, I'll never forget it. I was with my life coach, and we were talking about my breakup and how I was doing, and the progression and all that stuff. And she asked me, Chris, describe love to me. I was like, oh yeah, sure. Love is when two people are in it through thick and thin. They're ride or die. Always hanging out, always doing things together. Spending as much time as they can together, this and that. And then afterwards, she's like, you never described any actions. I was like, oh shit. So then I questioned, do I even know what love looks like? And, I didn't say kissing, hugging. And so it made me like pause and be like, okay, like maybe I don't understand love and what it is to love. And so that's the journey that I'm on right now. And that's something that I'm finding as I do it with myself, learn to love who I am. And I'll hug myself and make out and stuff. And I'm just kidding. I'll go hug trees though, on my jogs. But it's right now I'm in the healing process, and what's really helped me is my support group, but also doing things that I want to do and making myself smile, right? Not searching for that from anybody else. And it also, just a big part of it for me was the gym, exercising, making it a routine daily. I wake up at 4:40, 5 in the morning to go work out every day. And, I start the day with showing myself that I love myself. This is a form of love, to work on my body, work on my health, right? And there's different other things. I started also journaling is something that I do, as well as meditation. I started meditating, just a lot of breath work to kind of help heal. So there was this really cool thing my spiritual coach taught me, and I'm going to try my hardest to pronounce it. It's Ho'oponopono, right? And it's a Hawaiian mantra. And what it is, it's used for whenever you have any resentment or hate or like just any type of emotion towards somebody that you're no longer speaking to, but it's in the back of your mind, or like just constantly reoccurring or popping up. This person keeps popping up and you're like, oh, I hate that person. Just kidding. Or maybe you do, who knows, right? But this mantra is for that. It's a form of releasing the emotions that you feel, because it's active on your head, but the other person is not conscious about it whatsoever. So you're letting them control and dictate your emotions, which is not good, right? So that's something that we have to release. And the way the mantra goes is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And you can YouTube it, and there's a couple meditations where you just keep repeating that, and you think of any person that pops into your head, and then I won't say her name, but my ex, and I say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I'll do that for like 15 minutes. And afterwards, you just feel a lot of release, and it's been super, super helpful for me. So I highly recommend it for anybody going through any type of grief or resentment or anger towards somebody. Or it's just a way to release your emotions that you have, because life's too short to hate anybody and to let other people control your emotions. That means we're not controlling anything that we do. We're dictated by our environment as opposed to creating our environment. And that's what we want to get to, a state of creating as opposed to reacting. And so for me, what I took out of it is, heartbreaks can be a form of awakening. And it's a way to get in deeper with yourself and look inwards as opposed to outwards for why things happen the way they did. And it gives you a better understanding of who you are. And so I feel like that's where I'm at, and that's what I've been through. And, there's still hard times. And I'll share one with you guys. So a thing that me and my ex did, that she I see her as a guide, because she's the one that introduced me to my spiritual coach. She's actually the one that got me into yoga. So she taught me a lot. And recently I went to a yoga class by myself, of course. And there's a lot of anxiety because that's something that we did together. And, I go to yoga, I'm at the parking lot, and my heart's just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even want to go inside, right? And I was like, no, that's what we're here for. This is part of healing. This is a journey. So I go to yoga. I had the best yoga session ever. It felt so, so good. I was super happy. I'm more mobile and flexible. I did really good. Even the instructor was like, good job. And I was like, hell yeah. And at that moment, I turned to my right, like thinking she's there, wanting to share, like, hey, I did good. And then that's when it hit me, and I was like, whoa. I was like, she's not here anymore. That's not the life that you have right now. And I got emotional over it because We get stuck in this routine that we do with people, and sometimes we're afraid to do those things alone. And that was one of those moments for me where I was able to do it, and I did it for me this time. It wasn't for anybody else but me. And so it's hard, and the emotions will come, and the whole thing about emotions, guys, is you have to release them. I cried. I'm not gonna lie. I cried on the drive home. Just thinking about her and reminiscing about all our yoga times. But I did that as opposed to suppressing it and just, oh, I'm okay, and no, it doesn't hurt, and it hurt. It was a moment. It was an emotional moment. It's part of my healing journey, and I'm better because of it. And I've come to terms with everything that's happened. And it was an action and a validation for me to be, this is how you love yourself. You do things for you now. And it's not seeking it from anybody else. So if you're going through a breakup, it's tough, right? It is tough because you're used to being with somebody, but you got to see it as maybe it's a time where God wants you to be with him. And he wants you to be with yourself. And there might be some things that you need to confront that you haven't. Some emotions that you've been suppressing. And the only way to do that is to sit with it, confront it, talk to it. And so for me, an example is my ex would constantly pop into my head, like, bah, bah, like someone's just beating me, right? Like my body's like, hey, this thought here, we need to work on it. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Leave me alone. Trying to suppress it, right? Trying so hard to ignore it. And finally, I was like, okay, it just it kept reoccurring. I was like, I need to confront this. And I asked myself, why am I feeling this emotion? And I learned that I felt like I was lacking love, and that I needed other people to love me to feel loved. When in reality, love comes from within. So that's been my whole mantra, is love yourself. I've been doing that for the past 3 months that I've been single. It's just loving on me, loving myself, and that reflects onto others, my family, my friends, just being a better person overall. But it was a limiting belief that I had that I needed to confront, that I wasn't aware about, until I sat with the thought, and I was like, why do I feel this? What is this trying to tell me? And and for a lot of us, there's a lot of times when your body is trying to speak to you, your soul's trying to talk to you, and it's in the form of thoughts. The soul doesn't know English or Spanish. So, and when you can sit with your thoughts, you will learn a lot about yourself. I promise you that. And for those people also in relationships, there's actually a book that my therapist recommended. It's called Attached by Amir Levine. And it talks about, in a relationship, each person is one of these three categories. And, you can have a little bit of each, but it helps you to understand you and your partner, right? And who you're with, and how y'all can work things out if you ever have a disagreement or confrontations and stuff like that. And so one is being secure in a relationship. The second is being anxious in a relationship. And the third is avoidant in a relationship. And so I won't dive in deep today on that, but if you guys are interested, it's called Attached by Amir Levine. Super, super good book. It gave me a lot of understanding of who I was in my past relationship. And I actually was the avoidant type. I had so much going on in my head that I was not present in the moment. I was somewhere else at all times. And reflecting on it, I'm sure it's hard to love someone who's not even present, who's always just thinking about work and business and this and that, and not being able to just sit down and enjoy, this person's company. And so that's something that I know I failed at, but I'm correcting, right? And so it's a process. So I really recommend that book. It's very helpful for couples and for singles. And that's it for today, guys. If you're going through a breakup, take this time to work on yourself. Take this time to heal. Do the shadow work and really get to love on yourself and find things and enjoyment for you. Make yourself happy. All right? Don't seek that love from someone else, because that's just going to lead to a loop where you're going to be repeating the same cycle, just a different person. And in the end, it's going to end with heartbreak, right? So that's my recommendation. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I appreciate y'all.